Happy Devils. We got PK Subban Saturday. Breaking news. We're just filing in the Let's Go Devils podcast studio right now. I am your host, Sam Wu. Breaking news. Devils have acquired PK Subban on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline. I have Beer Baron. Beer Baron, where are you right now? How are you feeling? This is a tremendous day. First Jack Hughes, now PK Subban. What's next?
Sam, first of all, I have to tell you, my emotions are through the roof right now. The last 24 hours have been so exciting between Jack Hughes and now PK Subban, now a part of the New Jersey Devils. It is crazy. I'm in an undisclosed location in New Jersey somewhere right now. Just out on an assignment, and I had to call in because my mind was about to explode.
Yeah, you know what? I can't believe what had happened after a doubleheader podcast in the morning with Steve Cangelosi, which we were actually talking about this. Is it the 3 or 4 year rule? And we were talking about it off air. And then last night, State of the Fan address with Nick Villano. We were still talking about it. And then suddenly, about a couple hours ago, I think we got a screenshot from Shorts Guy. Is this true? And Pierre LeBrun, remember that tweet that he put out? Is this true?
Yep.
And then once we verified it, guess what we did? And it's going to be a crude show. And I want to let our fans and our audience know it's going to be crude. We were not prepared for this, but we got PK Subban and we dropped everything to do this podcast, this live podcast. Again, breaking news, PK Subban. So what does this do? I mean, what did they give up? I've been putting the show together. I saw a couple of second round draft picks. I think it was Davies and Santini, right? Am I correct?
Yeah. So they gave up the 34 overall. They gave up Santini and they gave up Davies. And I'm kind of bummed out because I'm not bummed out at all. Let's be honest. But I mean, it's sad to see Davies go, and it's sad to see Santini go. But it's good to see both of them get a fresh start. They're going to be in an amazing system in Nashville. Nashville is an incredible team, super talented, super deep on defense. Ray, once again, if you think about it, and I saw a tweet from somebody earlier, and I apologize if I don't give you the shout out of who it was. I've been scanning through Twitter for the last hour and a half. But I saw a tweet from somebody that said, if you think about it, Ray Shero has gotten PK Subban and Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, Davies, Santini, and 2 second-round picks. That's and when you put it in that kind of perspective, that's pretty wild.
That is insane, Beer Baron. I am just going nuts right now, and my phone is blowing up. I got Facebook Messenger friends. I've got, regular friends that know my number. I've got other areas. Just people are tweeting, direct message. Everybody's going crazy. Everybody's going. Not only do you get a solid, talented defenseman, you get, and most importantly, you get a right-handed defenseman with Vatanen and Subban. That's wow. The top. Do you even call that a top four? Do you put Vatanen and Subban on the same pairing? Maybe on the power play.
I mean,
I don't know.
Maybe on the power play,
yeah. So
not only do you get an incredible talent in defense, but you also get an incredible human being. PK Subban, with the amount of outreach that he does into the community, with everything that he does off of the ice, I think that has to be one of the things that is focused on as well, because you're not just getting hey, it's just another guy added to the team. This is a larger-than-life presence on and off the ice. And I think this is an incredible move. This is a PR dream come true for the Devils in the last 24 hours, having Jack Hughes, an American-born player, first overall pick, and now adding PK Subban, who's a media darling, and also like I just said, all the things that he does charity wise and everything else. That is a huge, huge thing for the community and for the Devils as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. And also, if you wanted to add the intangibles, and I know, some people don't care about it, but attached to the hip is Lindsey Vonn. She wants to be in New York, right? I think that's what Nick Villano said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're 100% right. And I mean, and that's just another one of those things. Like, it just, you see Ray is already day two. We were talking about it yesterday with Nick Villano, how we were kind of I guess we were shocked that there wasn't a lot of movement. There wasn't a lot of big trades. There wasn't a big splash. Today was Ray opened up the floodgates. After that, Patrick Marleau, which this trade kind of blows my mind. Patrick Marleau to the Carolina Hurricanes with a number one. I think it's a conditional number one for a 6th round pick. It's total salary dump. It's the Maple Leafs just making room for the cap, but it just blows your mind that you get Marleau and a first. So there's been some moves. I know Ray's also flipped the 55th overall pick to the San Jose Sharks, and he got the 88th and the 91st, I believe, which means that the Devils have 5 third-round picks. So you can imagine that he's probably going to be doing some more moving around.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I was very skeptical, and I'll admit, when you saw a couple of reports that Ray Shero has got the backing of ownership and they're opening up their wallets. Actions speak louder than words. It's happening. The Devils are moving forward with this team. Jack Hughes is now in the mix. He's officially a New Jersey Devil. You have Nico Hischier that is on the rise to stardom. Taylor Hall. If I look at this team, Taylor, let me tell you something. I like to make a couple bucks and stay here for the next 8 years, wouldn't you?
Yeah, seriously. And there was, you think about it like this too. And once again, like I said, scouring through Twitter, and let's not forget, I skipped over this with some of the moves that Ray Shero had made today so far. Johnny Quenneville getting sent out to Chicago for forward Hayden, I believe his last name is. I got to double check that. But I was kind of sad to see that one happen, just because I always had a lot of high hopes for John Quenneville. Just could never make it happen in the NHL level just yet. Maybe a new scene, new surroundings in Chicago. He'll get a second chance. Maybe he'll, flourish into the forward that we thought he could be. And I hope he does, because you know what? That kid, I believe, has tons and tons of talent. So, best of luck to him. But yeah, dude, this has been an exciting last 24 hours to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember a time that the 24 hours of major transactions. Do you remember a time like this in Devils history?
I mean, there's been a few, but I mean, maybe the Ilya Kovalchuk's, when we initially traded for him, the shock of that was like such a major transaction, especially in the Lou era. That was like I couldn't believe it. And that's another thing too. If you think about it like this, you look at the team that Ray Shero took over. You look at the roster, and this is not a knock against any of those guys. Obviously, I love Patrick Elias. He's probably my favorite Devil of all time. And there's a lot of guys on there, but they were up there in age or past their prime, or they were just kind of filling in a void. Look at what Ray Shero has done with this roster. It is absolutely incredible.
Oh, absolutely. I got to go to the Facebook Live right now. Jake Wakely writes, breaking Tom Gallitti tweet, Hugh Weber said Taylor Hall is excited and ecstatic about acquiring PK Subban. Mentioned that to Beer Baron and Sam. Well, yeah, I didn't. I should have read that line. David Decker writes, "Woo! Hughes came. David Decker is going crazy right now. The future looks bright." Jake Wakely. Alan Mata says, "See, I knew we'd be hearing from you guys today because he joined in late on the State of the Fan podcast from the West Coast, from California. You missed it." Also, let's see here. Bobby Manella writes, "That's the art of the trade." Chris Havelock has joined in to the Facebook Live group. So we want to hear your comments, any questions for us. This is going to be one of the crudest, unprepared podcasts, but let me tell you, when you do things live and you just wing it, that's some of the best stuff out there. But who cares? Devils have PK Subban. When I was in Montreal for business all the time, and you know what his nickname is? Prime Time.
That's
his
right.
nickname is Prime Time. We get PK Subban. I mean, oh, by the way, and I have to say this, and we have to talk a little smack right now. To all the Ranger fans that are happy about Trouba and Kakko, I know they're good players. Guess what? The Devils got PK Subban for practically nothing. I mean, I'll say it right now. Yeah, you want those draft picks, Santini. I like Davies. I like these kids, but guess what? This is PK Subban, and we did talk about this with Steve Cangelosi yesterday. And what did Cangelosi said about the 3 to 4 years? Why don't you explain that, Beer Baron, for those that didn't listen to the podcast of the special we did yesterday morning?
Well, obviously, I can't put it in the same kind of eloquent context that Steve does because he does it so well. But he was kind of explaining, like, do you want to take a chance on a PK Subban now because that's more of a win now type of move? Whereas in 3 years, the upside to it is he comes off the books. Now, if he resigns, he doesn't probably resign at that same $9 million kind of cap hit. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, it gives you the opportunity to bring in some guys. He also kind of said it might interfere with some of the younger kids coming up, but Davies is one of those kids that he said might interfere with. So now that Davies has moved to a different team, that kind of relieves that a little bit. I don't know. It's it just blows my mind to think that we were having this conversation yesterday, and then less than 24 hours later, it's like, hey, this is a reality. It's funny. My brother, I was talking to our boy Scotty out in the West Coast, our E-Bub. I was talking to him all day because him and I were texting back and forth, going crazy about this. My brother and I were texting, going crazy about this. And when my brother and I were texting, he goes, "Dude, I made this trade in my NHL 19 or NHL 18 or whatever the last one was, NHL 19 EA Sports game." He's like, "I made the trade to get PK Subban to the Devils." He's like, "How crazy is this?" So I'm like, "Yeah, man, this is Ray's moving in the shape."
Yeah, I'm telling you, all is forgiven. I know I was harsh on Ray and ownership and because I mean honestly, it's in the name of winning. But let me tell you something, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, nor do I like cliches, but honestly, ripping off a line from the sister basketball team, trust the process. Just trust the process, because right now, from where the Devils have been in the last 5 years, with the exception of making the playoffs, about a year ago, I'm starting to like this new regime. I'm starting to love Ray Shero. And especially after that Wyshynski interview, dropping a couple F-bombs, and then just remember that HBO or NHL Network when they went inside the locker room and John Hines throwing a bunch of F-bombs. This is Jersey's team. This
That's
team
right.
has identity, right? This team has identity. And you know what? This brand of hockey, and I know I love Lou Lamoriello, and don't get me wrong, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But you know what? If I was a Devils season ticket rep right now, I'd be like, ka-ching, ka-ching, because
Mm-hmm.
Devils fans want a winner, and Ray Shero is getting it done now.
Hold on. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up. There's so many things that are going on right now. Hold on.
I
So
know.
the Devils just drafted because I'm trying to follow the draft live. I'm trying to go on social media, try to keep up with things that are breaking. So the Devils just drafted a defenseman with the 61st overall pick, which was the pick from Boston, Nikita, and I'm going to butcher this last name, Okuchiuk or something like that. It's pretty difficult to announce, but anyways, I'm telling you, you lose Davies. You use that second round pick towards the end of the second round, pick up another defenseman. What he's doing is smart. You know what I mean? So now it seems like, what are they going to do? I'm sorry. I'm like trying to read at the same time. And it looks like, I'm sorry, Sam.
I'll keep on talking. You do the research. Facebook Live is humming. Periscope is going crazy right now. Preach it, woo, man. That's what David Decker says. Whose jersey to get first, Hughes or PK, or will it be another? Oh, good question. Good question. David Needle. That's what he wrote. Which jersey would you like first? PK Subban or Jack Hughes, or is what the Devils ownership would like, and Fanatics, because they power their Devils Den. We got to say hello to Fanatics. How about all the above? How about they have a Ray Shero blowout sale where they'll give you 5 red jerseys. 5 red jerseys. So you can have the whole collection of what Ray Shero has built in the last 36 hours. How about them apples? What do you guys say? I'm just making stuff as I'm going. I am so happy right now. We're doing this podcast on the fly. Shorts guy is in the middle of making T-shirts, and he couldn't just get to his studio. So we decided, you know what? Let's just wing it. I called up Beer Baron. We've got Bruce Zeman in the next couple minutes. So I will be calling him. Bruce Zeman, good friend of the Let's Go Devils podcast. He has a radio show and podcast up in Vermont, but what most people don't know, he used to be the Devils mascot in the late 80s, and just a great guy, very knowledgeable. I can't wait to talk to him. Also, we're waiting for a Shorts guy to come in. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, powered by Nova Product Design on the Primetime Radio Network. So everybody, IRWT. Do you know what that stands for? I mean, this is what Alan Mott is saying. Do you know what IRWT stands for?
What does that stand for?
I would say it's In Ray We Trust, but then I just looked at it. It says In Ray Jean We Trust. Anyway, I'm going nuts. We are so disorganized. We are disheveled, but it's a good thing. It's a happy problem. I'm just beside myself. I mean, this is just remember, and I'm going to say this to our audience. Last night we did double-header, and we had Shorts Guy take the mobile studio down at Prudential Center. We interviewed Arlette. We also interviewed Pete, the organist, Chop Liver, if those that listen know. His name is actually drawing a blank right now. What's his name? The PA announcer, Kevin Clark. Sorry. And also,
Kevin's going to be really upset with that.
I know. But we also got to interview Erica Wachter. and she knows her stuff. She really knew her stuff, and we were all very happy to have them as guests on the Let's Go Devils podcast. Again, we want to hear from you, comments, questions, anything to the podcast. David Decker, I missed you guys. Again, David Decker was the fan that held up the sign. The New York Rangers don't know Jack. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. It is such a beautiful last 36 hours to be what? A New Jersey Devils fan. And that's after the Rangers got Trouba and Kakko. Pound for pound, right. Ray Shero won again. Pound for pound, Ray Shero won again. And you know what? And I will say this to Facebook Live, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube Live, anybody that's chiming in right now. Ray Shero, and I mean this in a good way, is the biggest thief in New Jersey because he just robbed the Predators. He robbed the Edmonton Oilers. Although he did get lucky, he took the best guy in the 2019 NHL draft in Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes. I'm elated.
Dude, it's crazy.
Crazy.
Back-to-back defensemen.
Yeah.
Back-to-back defensemen with the late pick in the second round and then the early pick in the third round. So now they still have, correct me if I'm wrong, they still have 4 more picks in the third round. So look for some more action, whether it's, big play, small play, but it feels like there's still going to be some things that are going to happen today. I don't think Ray is done. I think there's been a lot of talk that he still wants to add a top 6 winger, and he still wants to add a top 4 D-man. So that is pretty huge.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Beer Baron, I'm going to have to let you go. I got Bruce Seaman coming up in about 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know how to transition this because normally I have one of you guys talking on air. So I may have to use some of our old Jeopardy music, We'll Be Back type. You know what? This is what I'm going to do. No. This is what I'm going to do. I want Facebook Live, Periscope, and Twitter while I'm off air for about 2 minutes to call Bruce Seaman and patch him in. I want you guys to chant along with your keyboards, with a loop organ tune of our infamous Pete Canarosi. All right, but Beer Baron, take care of yourself. 10-2 on the wheel when you drive home, and say hi to the family for me. All right?
Will do. And thank you so much for letting me call in, Sammy. And I got to tell you guys, hey, Facebook Live, everybody else that's out there, what moves do you think Ray Shero is going to be doing next? I'll try and check in and see if I can jump on and talk to you guys on there. But otherwise, I will see you more than likely maybe tomorrow night, right? So we'll see.
Yep. All right, great. All right, well, that is the infamous Beer Baron of the Let's Go Devils podcast. Now, again, we are disorganized. We are disheveled. I am the only one in the bunker studio. Actually, I'm not in the bunker studio, but right now, so we are going to transition to Bruce Seaman. I am looking on the board. So, Facebook Live, I want you guys to do this. I want you guys to get on your keyboards, and I'm going to play this tune. And you tell me what you should say at the end of this tune. Let me just pull it up right now. Sorry, we are disorganized, but let me do this. Let's put up this picture. All right. So once I put up this picture, all right, I'm going to mute my mic and you guys start typing in what should be said after this tune is played at the Prudential Center. Welcome back. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast. Breaking news, PK Subban is now a New Jersey Devil. On the phone line right now on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline, we have Bruce Zeman, and he is from Vox Radio, NHL analyst. Bruce, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming back. And as a Devils fan, are you ecstatic right now? I want to hear your reaction to the PK Subban trade.
Well, I have to say, considering it's the second day of summer and we're talking about the Devils, I'm pretty happy. I think this is a huge move for Ray Shero, and I think it's one of the first of his impact statements that he is going to make for the franchise, and really stepping outside the shadow of all the successful things that Lou Lamoriello did. I think it's a big trade for the Devils.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we talked to Cangelosi about this, Steve Cangelosi, yesterday about it, about a potential at the time, it was pretty much yesterday, yesterday about, what are the Devils looking for in the 3 to 4 year plan? Do they want to win now? Or is it, for the future? Like, how much is it going to cost? And, that was a question we were just kind of like thinking amongst ourselves yesterday. But, I really think that, I don't think they really gave up much to do this deal, other than take up some cap space.
Well, if you think about this, Sam, and first of all, it's a really good question, because they really didn't give up too much for it. They gave up Steve Santini, who really never made it into the Devils lineup on a regular basis. They also gave up Davies, and then they gave up a second-round pick in the 2000 in this draft, and then a second-round pick next year for arguably one of the best defensemen in the league. And this is something that's important, too, that a lot of people are not talking about yet. Think about this for a second. Subban has got 3 seasons remaining on an 8-year, $72 million contract that he signed with the Canadiens back in 2014. So the Devils have got him for 3 seasons at a reasonable, if you think $9 million a season is reasonable, at a reasonable rate. And I'll get to more on this in a second, because although the Devils have a lot of salary room now, they may not going forward. So I think this was a big deal.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal. Now, switching gears, Jack Hughes being picked first overall. I know you were doing a lot of interviews yesterday, but could you give us your analysis, what this means down the middle for the New Jersey Devils the next 7 to 10 years?
Well, just bear with me a second, because this is kind of a lengthy answer, because this drafting of someone who is arguably going to be the centerpiece of the franchise for years to come, it addresses a couple of things. If you think about this, the Devils have really, until the arrival of Taylor Hall, never had a legitimate superstar that they have groomed as one of their own. Taylor Hall groomed themselves with the Edmonton Oilers, but a number of things here come to mind. First and foremost, this is going to go very, very far in getting Taylor Hall to decide to stay here. Taylor Hall hasn't started negotiations yet. He's biding his time, like you would think that he would. But now with the addition of Subban, and you've got Hughes and Nico, I think it's going to make it a lot easier for the team to keep him on board. And, I mentioned a moment ago about salary cap issues. Think about this for a second. So I believe the NHL salary cap next year is going to be about $82 million. So the Devils right now have one of the most space in terms of salary cap room in the league. Okay, but think about this. With the addition of Hughes and now potentially Subban, you could theoretically, even with a cap of $82 million, have 4 players, potentially 4 players, making 8 figures a year. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but it could at some point. You're going to have Nico, you're going to have Taylor Hall, you're going to have Hughes and Subban. How are you going to afford to do that and somehow continue to build a team? They're going to have to think of something. But so Hughes, arguably the best player in the draft, although Kakko was a close second. I think the Rangers are going to find out that he's going to make a big impact with their team as well. But, I think for the Devils, this was a franchise-defining moment. I think we had the era of Scott Stevens, Martin Brodeur, Scott Niedermayer, and they've got their 3 cups. And now As you said a moment ago, Shiro, really the thief of the draft. I mean, just an amazing job in stockpiling not only draft picks and talent, and this could really go a long way into making them a contender very, very quickly. And, right now, at least anyway, at an affordable price.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, by the way, Shorts Guy has now joined in to the conversation. He got off the heating press of his T-shirt machine. Shorts Guy, we got Bruce Zeman on from Vox Radio, NHL analyst. You got any questions for Bruce off the top of your head, Shorts?
Just how unexpected was this today? You guys may have discussed this already. I'm sorry I was working, but this was completely unexpected.
I don't know how unexpected it was because it was well known the Devils needed some help on defense. We saw last year when Sami Vatanen was out of the lineup, and then we had some other injuries. They really needed a marquee defenseman. And Sam, we've talked about this before when I was on previously. The Devils as a franchise have never really recovered from the loss of Stevens and Danico and Niedermeyer. They've never really had a big-name defenseman since then. And, as you said, Shiro, he did a heck of a job. You got to tip your hat to him because he got arguably one of the top defensemen in the league. He didn't pay a fortune for him, and he really didn't give up all that much. But for me anyway, yesterday when I was on the radio up here talking about what the Devils did and what they needed to do, adding a marquee defenseman was 1A for me. And also, there's a lot of rumblings that he still may add another top 4 defender. So while it's not unexpected, it's a huge coup for Ray Shero and the Devils.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I'm. Excuse me, Bruce. I'm overjoyed with excitement. I can't contain myself right now. We're on a live podcast. I mean, everything that's coming out of my mouth is authentic and genuine, and just I'm speechless. Shorts Guy, help me out here. You're my crutch right now.
All right. So I got you. So last night was exciting. We draft Hughes. Everyone was pretty jacked up, and even Hughes was jacked up. And then to get the news, what was it at 12:45? Right before round 2 starts, that we've not only got Jack Hughes last night, but now we've picked up a marquee defenseman, which Bruce, like you were saying, we absolutely needed. I was not expecting this today. I was expecting there to be some moves, but I was going into today looking, okay, who are the Devils going to draft at 34? Not, oh man, we have PK Subban. That to me is the unexpected part about how this, all came about today. I was expecting to go into this draft day going, all right, let's see what we got for picks. But this completely changes everything up. And this shows that Shiro is not just, as much as we're also building for the future, we're looking to get pieces for right now as well. And I'm curious if this is all in an effort to show Taylor Hall, like, hey, look, this is us. We're in for good right now.
Well, that's really a good question. And I was thinking about that. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday when I was on the radio up here. I think for Taylor Hall, this is also a career-defining moment because what do you want to do with your career? He's seen, since he's been here, the love that the Devils fans have given him, chanting MVP every time he touched the puck last year. Very, very different environment for him from the negativity, if you will, that he saw in Edmonton. And really, for his agent, who's obviously going to try to get him the best deal. And by the way, for the Devils fans that are freaking out about him not doing anything yet, it's part of the bargaining process. It doesn't surprise me at all that this is going on because he's obviously going to try to make his agent is going to make his value as high as possible. I mean, to me, if you put me on the spot right now, I think you're looking, and forgive me, I don't know whether it's 7 years or 8 years. I believe it's 8 years that they can sign him for. You're probably looking at 8 years, $88 million, $11 million. That's probably what you're going to want to pay for him. But from an organization standpoint, if you, and I know you're a big, longtime fan, Sam, remember way back when Scott Stevens first came to the Devils, he really didn't want to be here. He wasn't sure that they were going to build a winner, and the management went to him and said, listen, this is your team. This is your chance to have a legacy here. This is your chance to be one of the greats. And look what happened. 3 Stanley Cups, and he's one of the all-time greats, not only with the Devils, but in the NHL in general. He is an icon. He is a beloved figure with the Devils faithful. We may not have the biggest fan base, but they've got, in my opinion, one of the most knowledgeable and passionate fan bases. So think about this for a second. If you're Ray Shero, you're going to go to Taylor Hall and say, look, this is your time. This is your chance to do the exact same thing. We're showing you that we're bringing you the pieces. We're willing to spend the money to do this. This is, for the Devils, you don't want a John Tavares situation happen, and I don't think that would happen. But this is your chance to say to him, look, this is what we're willing to do. Do you want to be a hero? Do you want to be an icon? Do you want to be a beloved figure and have your number up in the rafters like Stevens, Brodeur, Niedermeyer, and Elias? Because if you do, this is the place to be. I think he will resign. I think it's going to cost the Devils some money, but I think that's one of the conversations you have with him. I think you say, if you want to be an icon and you want to be remembered for greatness, you need to wear the red, white, and black.
And looking at that too, Tom Gliddy, the former Devils beat writer, put out a tweet not too long ago saying that after speaking with Hugh Weber, that Taylor Hall was excited about the Subban trade. So that's a sign and a positive sign right there. And I completely agree with you. Taylor Hall, I mean, how many more moves could he possibly have left in his career before, he's gone too far? This could be the stop. The Devils have a lot of pieces that are looking very positive right now. And going forward, this could definitely be his final stop. And I really hope that, just like you explained very well, that Shero looks at him and says, listen, this is where you can see your number 9 up in those rafters, like you said. And to be honest, it would be great to have someone take over that number 9, which, for a while, the numbers seemed kind of stained after Parisi left, and someone has that number there, and someone is taking that number from mediocrity to greatness, and no one else will ever wear it again.
You make a good point. And again, I was not really a big fan of Parisi going to Minnesota, but however, it's tough to criticize somebody that wants to go home and play in front of a home crowd. I totally get that. But again, you're looking at his career. He has not been anywhere near as productive with Minnesota since he left here. He's injury prone now. And, years from now, what people say is, what did you win? What did you accomplish? And, for Zach Parisi, there's not a lot of hardware there. And so, the same thing, and I know this is a bad word for a lot of Devils fans, but Ilya Kovalchuk, he left to go back. He retired, quote unquote. He's a shell of his former self, and it doesn't look like he's ever going to win anything. So, to Taylor Hall, I think you're exactly right. I mean, what else would you like the team to do to prove to you that they are willing to build a winner? We have criticized before, not just on your podcast, but I've done it on my radio program, Devils ownership in the past for not being willing to spend the money, not being able to go after the big free agents. Well, you know what? You can't say that anymore because they just proved that they're willing to do that. And so now, a lot of times the onus is on the ownership to do things. But in my opinion right now, with Taylor Hall, the ball or the puck is in his end of the ice because the Devils, in my opinion, have done everything possible to show him that they are going to build a winner. And if you want your number up there in the rafters and you want to be an icon like Stevens, then you need to re-sign here.
And you know what? It still feels so odd that you were right that the Devils were not a team or a franchise that went for the big name player. It still feels odd when a big name player ends up coming to wear the red, black, and white like Subban is right now, like when Taylor Hall came, like even when Kovalchuk came over. We're not used to. I know. I'll speak for myself. I'm not used to those free agents coming. I'm still not used to it, and it still feels so odd to get this. Like you see all these players signing and all these other teams, and you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. But when it happens to us, it's still like, whoa, this is so cool. It's I don't know. I'm not used to it, but I'm very happy that we have Subban in our lineup now.
Oh, absolutely. And if you think about this, it does another thing, a kind of an intangible thing for the franchise as well. People will want to come and play here now. I mean, you'd have to have something wrong with you to not want to come and play with Jack Hughes. I mean, you have to be crazy to not want to play with him and Nico Hischier and Palmieri. And I mean, it makes the team a destination, and it makes the franchise look like they're on path. And it raises a number of other issues too. If you think about this, first and foremost, what type of development is Jack Hughes going to have with John Hines? He hasn't had a heck of a lot to work with up until now, but now he's got Nico, he's got Jack Hughes. He's going to have Subban. So for Coach Hines, he's kind of on the clock now. I mean, he's got to pass the past couple of years. He did get them in the playoffs, but now you've got to develop this player who is, hopefully going to lead you to the promised land. And so he's going to be on the clock. And another issue, for me anyway, is the one glaring thing that the Devils need to do right now, maybe in this draft, maybe by trade, is they've got to figure out their goaltending situation. They're certainly not going to do this in the media, obviously, but, they have to ask themselves, and I think they probably are, is Corey Schneider going to be the goalie that is going to bring you a championship here? Or is it going to be Mackenzie Blackwood, or is it going to be someone else that's not in the organization? I have supported Corey Schneider throughout his career. I don't think he's an elite goaltender. I think he's a better than average goaltender. But, he went through a tough stretch last year, picked it up at the end of the year, which is fantastic. But you have to ask, it's a business, and that's the tough part of this. For example, earlier this year when the Devils traded Brian Boyle, a lot of people were unhappy with that, but they got a great return for him. So this is a business, but the Devils have got to ask themselves, is Corey Schneider or Mackenzie Blackwood, is he your goalie? And if not, to me, that may be one of the things that they've got to go out and get.
And Bruce, I'll tell you why in my own mind why Corey Schneider will end up being traded, and it's gonna come down to this. Corey Schneider will get traded because on Thursday I found a killer deal for a brand new authentic Corey Schneider jersey, and I bought it. Therefore, I'm predicting Schneider will be traded, and I'll end up having this jersey that'll have to get stripped and renamed after the fact. But I'm hoping that's not the case. Goaltending is definitely something they got to figure out. I wouldn't be shocked if they gave Schneider and Blackwood at least the beginning of the season to see where they can go together. Now that Schneider got that, broke through that wall of getting that first win again in forever, which we were talking last night with Erica Wachter about, that seemed to be one of the high marks of somewhat of a dismal season last year. But now that he has that, that victory again, and if he can get rolling going through into this season, in the beginning part of this season, he may be a good teacher for Blackwood. He may be someone that Blackwood could, as long as he continues to grow and look like he did in the games that he got at the end of last season, he could possibly be your future at goaltending. But having someone, a veteran like Corey Schneider, to kind of help him through the process of becoming an NHL goaltender could be very good. So that's my thought for the beginning of the season. However, Shero has shown us in the past that anyone can be traded, and he will make a move if that move comes available, no matter who the player is, whether they're an Adam Henrique or possibly Corey Schneider or anyone, Brian Boyle. He's willing to send anyone wherever he thinks he's going to get a good deal for this team.
Well, over the course of his career with the Devils, listen to these numbers, and this is where the area of concern for me comes. He's played in 298 games for the Devils. He's 112, 127, and 48. So again, you're going to have to decide, are you willing to bank your future on a goalie with those kind of numbers? He had better numbers when he was in Vancouver. Or are you going to give the reins to Mackenzie Blackwood? To me, what I think you do is you have a goaltending competition in camp, and you name one of them a starter and you ride them. If it were me, I would give the ball to Mackenzie Blackwood based on what he did last year. Again, you made a good point. Schneider seemed to get things straightened out. But the question that I had, and a player is not going to say this to you, but did the team lose confidence in him in the locker room? Publicly, they did not. I wonder what the story was in the locker room. I'm not really sure. Nobody's going to know that. The players are not going to tell you that. But again, they're making all these moves, and I think after the dust settles on Hughes and Subban, they're really going to have to take a look at this and see what happens. But I do agree with you. I think it may be, the end of next season or maybe mid next season before anything happens. But I think that's something they're going to have to take a look at.
And although you're correct, his numbers don't look too great, but you also kind of have to factor in the fact that he didn't have the greatest team playing in front of him, which makes a really big difference. And the fact that he had become injury prone over his career at the Devils too, that kind of spooks you a little bit too when you get back onto the ice, and you may be afraid to make those moves like you used to. So along with those stats, you kind of have to factor in a couple other X factors into that too, to where they may show a clear representation, but they may also not. And he's got to get, a good start with a good team in front of him. But a goaltending competition in camp, there's nothing wrong with that, because that's going to push both of them to hopefully their max. And maybe we can see that goaltender that Snyder was in Vancouver if he's got that, Blackwood nipping at his heels, which, you know what? And if it turns out to be that Blackwood's the starter, well, maybe that motivates Corey to work even harder and get, that's always a plus too as well.
Yeah, and I think you're right about that. And who doesn't want him to be successful? I mean, any Devils fan certainly wants him to be successful. But the challenge for me with him is to, A, not stay injury prone. And one of the things, if you go back, this is a couple of years now, but look when Marty was our netminder. An elite level goaltender, a Hall of Fame goaltender, will steal games for you. In other words, win you games that you have no business being in, because Marty was probably one of the best puck handling goaltenders in history. He also, for my dollar, is the greatest ever. And if I had to play one game for the Stanley Cup, I would want him in net above anybody else. Corey has got to show the franchise that he can do that. And that's important. And conversely, so does Mackenzie Blackwood. I guess my point is they don't really have anybody like that now. Do they have that in-house? Or, for example, and I don't know that Shiro would do this, but do you go out and spend the money on a Bobrovsky? There may not be enough money to pay for all these people at some point, but, that's something for the Devils are going to have to decide at some point.
Yeah, totally agree. They're going to have to figure that out. And I do also think that adding Subban to our defensive core is going to go a long way to helping Snyder or Blackwood, whoever's in net, to really start stealing those games, because you got to have that as a goaltender. You have to be able to rely on your defense to help you out if you need it, just like your defense and your forwards got to rely on that goaltender to help bail them out when they need it as well.
I mean, Subban is going to help so many aspects of the Devils game. I mean, think about the mentoring that he's going to be able to give Will Butcher, who at times last year was a quarterback for the Devils power play. I mean, Subban can certainly put points on the board, and so can Butcher. And so, as a mentor, that's going to be fantastic. I mean, again, what does this mean for the Devils defense? Well, I mean, it's going to depend on where the pairings go. I mean, what is this going to do for Damon Severson? Where is he going to fit in on this in terms of, is he going to go from, 1 and 2 to 5 and 6, or, whatever that, you'll have to figure that out. But, with Subban and Andy Green and Vatanen and Severson, I mean, I think things are looking up for next year. The question is, I mean, if you look at the numbers from last year, Andy Green played a ton of minutes. Do you maybe reduce his time a little bit and let him be a little bit more effective? But, you're 100% right. Subban it's a franchise-defining moment for him being traded here.
And on top of that, we have one of the top personalities in the league, which I don't know if you guys spoke about that earlier, and what, may not always go noticed, but this is good for the Devils' bank account for jersey sales. Between him and seriously though, between him and Hughes, that could be a lot of jerseys going out the door almost immediately, starting today or tomorrow. So that could be money in the bank right away too.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the other players that we haven't even talked about yet is Ty Smith. Down in the minors. I mean, there's a very good chance that he is going to make the roster this year. So, my goodness, their defensive core could be very, very good this year, which would be something that would certainly help them. And I definitely think they're going to contend for a playoff spot now at these moves next year. I definitely think that's reasonable.
And we haven't even hit free agency.
No, I mean, you haven't hit free agency, but again, as we mentioned a moment ago, don't you think if you're a free agent, I mean, pick one, Matt Duchene or anybody with it, Panarin, you see what the Devils are doing. Wouldn't you be willing to at least listen to what that team is putting out there? I mean, could you imagine if Panarin came here? My goodness, what a wealth that would be. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but now you're a destination of choice, because these free agents are looking at this stuff. They say that they don't, but they're watching the draft boards and what the teams are doing. And people are saying, wow, look at this. They've got Hughes, they've got Subban, they got Nico. I mean, that's a crazy amount of talent. And come free agency, who knows what they're going to pull off? I mean, and I've been following this team. This is how old I am. I have been following this team since they've been the Kansas City Scouts. That's how long I've followed this team. This is one of the best days in their history, this draft.
Wow.
Totally agree.
I would think so. I don't remember ever a time in a 36 hour period that like it was like an explosion of like top tier trades, draft, just all the above in such a short period of time. I mean, honestly, this is going to be a day, Bruce, where we're going to be like, where were you when Ray just went crazy for 36 hours with Jack Hughes and now PK Subban? I mean, Shorts Guy and I literally, and it's the same with you, Bruce, because I texted you out of nowhere. Like, we literally dropped everything to put on this podcast and just because I don't think we'll ever, and I'll put this, I don't think we'll ever see this ever again, like the last 36 hours that we've had.
I hope you're proven wrong, Sam. I hope you are proven wrong.
I know.
Well, I mean, for me, when you walk into the Prue Center and you look up and you see all of those banners, whether it's this is going way back to the 1987-88, Patrick Division playoff champions, or, the conference champions, or the 3 Stanley Cup banners. When you walk in there and you realize that this franchise has a tradition of winning and developing superstars and Hall of Famers, for a free agent coming in there and seeing that, I mean, boy, it's hard to sell against that. Just like we were talking about with Taylor Hall, you want your jersey to be up there too? This is where you need to be. And so the moves that have been made in the last, 36 hours certainly seems like they're headed on the path. But to me, this is one of the best days in franchise history in recent memory. But again, with the Subban thing and even with the Taylor Hall situation, I think it's going to be a lot easier for the Devils to get Taylor Hall to sign, and I think that they're going to be a team to be reckoned with going forward.
Yeah, and I'll end with this, Bruce. Who would ever thought? I saw a quote from Ray Shero. Who would ever thought that Ray got no calls for the first overall pick, but now he's getting calls left and right now? Like, who ever thought that? Like, nobody even dared go after the first pick, and now Ray Shero is now just wheeling and dealing.
Well, it shows you that he has stepped out of the shadow. The franchise, to me, with this draft and what he's done, Ray Shero is now out of the shadow of Lou Lamoriello, who did many, many great things for this franchise. He had his critics, like all GMs do, but Shero is giving Coach John Hines the talent to build a winner, to win a championship. And, boy, if this doesn't put him as a top candidate for GM of the year next year, I don't know what will.
Exactly. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for making time for us on a Saturday afternoon to give us your knowledge and your expertise on the Devils. Thank you.
Hey, Sam, I got to tell you, I do a lot of hockey and I do a lot of podcasts and everything, and you guys have one of the best podcasts anywhere. It's knowledgeable, it's fun, and you do it right. So thank you for your time and for having me on the show.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Thank you for the kind words, Bruce.
That is Bruce Zeman from Vox Radio, NHL analyst. Also has his show. I think I forgot what it's called. It was something like, is it Bruce and Hobbs? Do you remember, Shorts Guy?
I don't remember, and I would not be able to recall it right now. I got so much stuff swimming through my head with right now, but we will. We will post about his show as soon as we can, just so we can get some credit to Bruce and get some eyes and ears over to his show as well. So we'll make sure we'll post that after the fact. So we apologize for forgetting your show name, Bruce, but thank you for your kind words about us.
So let's recap. You are listening for all the new viewers. Viewing us on Facebook Live, Periscope, Twitter for the first time, YouTube Live. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, doing a pop-up podcast, spur of the moment. Devils acquire PK Subban. Lots of transactions have gone on in the last 36 hours. This is after drafting the first overall pick, number 1 pick, Jack Hughes. Devils fans are just... They're out of their minds. We're going out of our minds. But right now we are trying to get more guests and And also, Bruce says that it's the Wake Up Crew with Bruce and Hobbs. That's
Thank you, Bruce.
That's the show. Thank you for putting that in. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It's Saturday afternoon. We dropped. I mean, here I was eating pizza on air. I normally don't eat or drink on air,
I
but I'm
saw that,
starving.
Sam. That's not normal.
Yeah, I know. It's not normal. Our graphics are all over the place, but who cares? Devils get PK Subban. This is just we're ecstatic. Also, Jake Wakely writes, Mitch Marner will be talking to teams when RFA period begins per Pierre LeBrun of TSN. I'm glad, Shorts Guy, when you sent me the screenshot of Pierre LeBrun saying the Devils got PK Subban, we actually triple verified that just to make sure because it was almost too good to be
Googled
true.
It right away. Googled it right away, and an article came right up too. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last thing we want to do is report fake news here on the Let's Go Devils podcast. So we try to get it right, and also we want to thank all those.
We're gonna have to check this one. Bobby Manella, a longtime friend and listener to the podcast, just said that the Devils traded pick number 91 for 96 and 126. So I think that may be another trade that just went down. He's currently watching the draft now, I believe. So I'm gonna try to look that up now. So
hey, Shorts Guy, I'm gonna get Nick on. I don't want to do what I did last time and play organ music while I had to step away from the camera. So why don't you go ahead? I will zoom this into you. So I hope that you cleaned up your studio.
I tried. I tried. Oh man. So I'm just getting caught up here. My apologies if anyone out there listening hears some stuff double repeated, but the fact that the Devils picked up PK Subban is fantastic. That's, just like we were talking about with Bruce, that's another defensive, a really great defenseman. And I think that's saying it mildly to help build up and bolster this defensive core, which was absolutely needed. On top of that, bringing in Jack Hughes last night. I'm still buzzing about Jack Hughes last night. If anyone was at the draft party, I think the Devils did that absolutely right. I got to give them a lot of credit. They had a couple of current players there, which I was not expecting any current players to be there. I was expecting some Devils alumnists, which is usually what the Devils have. Which nothing against the alumnus. We love those guys, Bruce and Grant. They're fans and friends of the show. I was just not expecting any current players. They showed the draft. They at least showed our pick. They showed a couple other picks. It was a lot of build-up. It was a good time. I thought the reaction of the fans was great. The only thing that I didn't like was we were booing Kakko before anyone was picked. I thought that was kind of odd. That's just my take on that. Currently looking up the Devils if they are trading right now for picks. Look at that first one up. PK Subban traded to the Devils. Sam, I think I reached my limit of talking by myself. I'm glad to see you came back.
Oh yeah, well, talking by yourself is really an art form, and also I'm just trying to get the graphic of Nick Villano up because he is on hold on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline. I know I have a graphic somewhere. You see, part of the things I want the audience to know is we have to prepare for our podcast, but we were not. Yeah, but we were not prepared for what has just transpired in the last couple hours. And we said, screw it. We're just going to do the podcast and just wing it and do it that way. I'm trying to find the graphic, but if not, we'll just put Nick on. Let me send him
if we have to, we'll just put him on. It's for the fans. Again, a little bit of the inside of the show. Sam and I had a phone conversation about 12:50 saying let's have a podcast at 2, and I was running late and already doing stuff, so that's why I'm here late, but we got it done, and this is why Let's Go Devils podcast is the most commented podcast of all New Jersey Devils podcasts, because we are right there all the time. Every time when big news breaks, the Devils Let's Go Devils podcast is right on it.
Oh, absolutely. And also,
Oh yeah.
I would like to also what I would also like to say about the Let's Go Devils podcast is this. Not only are we the most commented podcast in the history of podcasts, but, and I'm going to say, but we are the most viewed Devils podcast in the history of the New Jersey Devils. Probably
Yeah.
because we're the only ones.
Yeah, but we're absolutely one of the longest. I don't know if we're one of the longest runnings, but it's
I
good
don't
to be
know.
a Devils fan today. It is good to be a Devils fan today. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, but I do know a Devils fan. He's a regular. Oh, by the way, congratulations to Bruce Zeman. It was his second time on the podcast. Now he's officially a good friend of the podcast and a regular. A regular. But right now we got the super regular on steroids on the podcast on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline. We've got Nick Volano. Nick, I want to hear the excitement in your voice right now. Tell us how you feel about this PK Subban trade.
So, first of all, I don't know how you expect me to come on after that major humble brag, but I'll try. I'll do my best. So, obviously, PK
We're filling
Subban
space,
is
Nick. We're filling space.
fortified legit. PK Subban is a fortified legit number one defenseman, something that we've been missing since, I don't know, a long time, maybe since Paul Martin left. Maybe Andy Green was kind of in that space, close to that space, but we haven't had a guy, a top five defender since the Niedermeyer Stevens days. Because Rafalski was good, Paul Martin was good, but we never had a guy like this. This guy's a top five defenseman. He's coming off an off season, which is why you got him for 2 seconds, one being in 2020, Jeremy Davies and Steve Santini, which I didn't think would get a 6th-round pick if we tried to trade him with the contract he's on and how he's played the past couple of seasons. He got hurt almost immediately after stepping on the ice, and he got hit in the face with a puck last year, so he didn't really get to redeem himself after a bad year the year before. So this guy just kind of really had bad luck, but he had no value. Yet you put him in a deal with 2 picks and a prospect who was once a 7th-round pick, and you turned him into PK Subban, and he's cost-controlled for 3 more years. And on top of that, Subban's contract ends, like I said, in 3 years, exactly when you have to pay Jack Hughes. So you don't have to worry about that $1 million contract coming into play when you might have to pay Jack Hughes. I know we don't want to look that far in advance. But that's the business of hockey. Hockey is always a 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is now you have a $9 million guy that's no longer a $9 million guy when possibly Jack Hughes needs to be a $10 million guy. So it is the perfect player with the perfect contract and the perfect situation for this team. Now you could stick him right on that first line. You sit and you hope that you get 2018 version of Sammy Vatanen, and then you have a legit top line right there. Then you kind of just sit back and you kind of play with the combos. You want Will Butcher playing with Severson, or would you rather keep Will Butcher on that third line, moving up Ty Smith? Maybe you do a Butcher and Green. I know right now they're both left defensemen, but you can still play around with things. You kind of work the system a little bit. How much do you and now with this, you don't have to rely at all on Ty Smith. He can come up, give him 13 to 15 minutes a game to get used to the game for the first 3 months, because PK Subban is going to eat those minutes. This is one of the best two-way defensemen in the game still at 30 years old, and the Devils have him, and they literally need they need a top six wing, and then this is a legit contender club.
Yeah, Nick, this seems like everything we've been talking about in the last 2 to 3 months. This seems like all these pieces are coming together, and we knew with the Devils having this bank of picks that they were either going to get lots of top talent in this draft or trade some top talent in, because other teams were going to need those draft picks, or they were going to need to move players. And we still have a ton of cap space. And you're absolutely right. And in a salary cap league, you have to look 3, 4, 5 years in the future because you need to know what you're going to have coming down the pipeline so you can manage your money correctly and not get, tied up against the cap, sort of like Tampa Bay, who are going to find themselves or Toronto find themselves in a tough spot when you got players that want to get paid or they're going to bolt.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you have to look at those years in advance. You can't have a short-minded mindset because that's how you become, the Flyers, which are in a really bad spot right now because they're kind of in this middle ground where they're trying to be competitive now and paying Kevin Hayes all this money, and they're doing a lot of really weird decisions, and they just gave up 2 good picks for Justin Braun. I mean, think about this. The Flyers gave a second and a third for Braun, who was the third pairing guy on San Jose, will probably be the third pairing guy in Philadelphia. A second and a third. The Devils gave up 2 seconds. A defenseman who, say what you will about Santini, he was a great guy, but that's what I'm going to say about him. And then Jeremy Davies, who had all the upside in the world, but he was a 7th round pick. And he looked really good, but he's also a 22-year-old prospect. So it's not like, this was a draft-eligible guy who almost won the Hobby Baker Award. It was a 22-year-old, and he still needed probably a year to develop in the AHL before he might make the team, and then he'd be a third liner, and then you know what I'm getting at. Basically, They gave up interesting pieces for a lockdown top-of-the-league guy.
Ready-made to fit right into the lineup on day one, and you know exactly what you're getting.
Exactly. I mean, exactly what PK is going to be the top guy in this team. He's now, just think about the marketing aspect that the Devils just did. They got Jack Hughes, who might be the most marketable American star that we've ever seen in a draft before. And I know that might sound like conjecture, but look at this kid. He looks like an Abercrombie & Fitch model. He's so personable. He says the right things all the time. He seems like he puts himself in the right position all the time. He's not, Patrick Kane always had this kind of questionable decision-making that he had outside of hockey. It doesn't seem like Hughes has a great family and a hockey family, and one that's been doing hockey their entire lives. And then you get the other marketable star, PK Subban. PK Subban's, on the cover of NHL 19. He's doing all these great commercials. He's dating or engaged to Lindsey Vonn. He's just a marketable star. And I haven't even mentioned the 2018 MVP. So this weekend literally changed everything for the Devils.
And you know what, Nick? I just had this thought as you were talking. So Jack Hughes is coming in, and as the number 1 pick, he's going to come in with a lot of fanfare. But now we just picked up PK Subban, who can take some of that spotlight off of Hughes and allow him to develop and to not be the marquee spotlight guy until he's absolutely ready for it. So this may also be a move to not to shield Hughes a little bit, because he's still going to get a lot of views, going to get a lot of people looking at him. But now he's not the only spotlight guy. And this could help him for his personality and for his development, at least for season 1, until he's, good and ready to take that full step into the spotlight, which I think is fantastic for a player of his age, be 18 and to be able to take on this role with the Devils, but also have this other personality that just walked into the room with you that will shield you from some of that as well.
Yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, Larry Brooks is never going over the Hudson and interviewing these guys on a daily basis. It's still going to be the same Chris, Abby, Amanda, and Corey situation they have, no matter how good this team is. It's just a fact of the matter. We maybe 15 years down the line is when we really start to see that change. And maybe Jack Hughes and this PK Subban trade is what starts that media roll towards us, but it's never going to be a team where, the spotlight is on you as much as other teams. We're still probably going to get maybe 2 national games on NBC Sports next year, or, just because a lot of these places are short-minded until, these teams force you to rip their eyelids open. Not to be graphic, but think about how long it took Nashville to get there. Think about how long it took Nashville to get into that national sphere. NBC Sports and the NHL just kept thinking, oh, it's Chicago. Let's do Chicago, then LA, then LA, then Chicago, then LA. And then Nashville's like, no, look at what we can do when you give us a shot. And then they're filling up the concourse and have Luke Bryan doing concerts on the roof. So that's what the Devils now, Ray Shero has put the Devils in a position to get them to that point, get them to a point of where Nashville is, where it's on the national spotlight. They go to they could go to the Stanley Cup and it not be, a collective groan from the league. It's a marketable team with marketable players, and it's you can build it up, be in between Philadelphia and New York. There's a lot to like about the situation. And honestly, I don't know if you brought this up, but you got to think about how this does impact Taylor Hall and his decision. He said, hey, I want you to get talent. He got one of the most talented defensemen in the league who's going to set this guy up for the next 3 years. And then after that, you're going to have a mature Jack Hughes, and you're going to have a Nico Hischier in his prime. And then you're going to have all these other pieces like Boquist and Smith who are also entering their young prime. So, after this move, if Hall says no, he was never going to say yes.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. And, it's already come out by Tom Gulitti that Hall is very excited about this trade, which is a positive thing. But I'm going to have to slightly disagree with you a little bit, Nick, because with all the buzz about Kakko versus Hughes, I can see the league trying to turn this in, especially with Hughes going to the Devils and the Rangers getting Kakko 1 and 2. I can see the league trying to turn this into the next big rivalry that they're going to start promoting. With all the fanfare and with everything that came in with this draft. And even the Devils were very good at doing it too, building up the suspense about, talking to Hughes and Kakko and going to visit Kakko and all this stuff. I foresee the league trying to turn this into another big player versus player rivalry on 2 franchises that you already know hate each other. So that rivalry is already ready made. It's just now the league can take these guys and promote them, because especially if Kakko starts out hot and Hughes turns into something big, which we all hope. It just may take a little. I think it's going to take a little bit, not a lot of time, but a little bit of time. I can see the league trying to pump this rivalry up just between the 2 of them, and then the 2 franchises just completely blow it up as best they can.
I could see where you're coming from. I could definitely kind of see that rivalry aspect is there. It would they'd have to be as good as Crosby and Ovechkin. They can't be anything less, because if it was an American and a Canadian, or if it was 2 Americans, then it would be huge for the national marketing of it. But being that it's a Finnish guy and an American, that's missing just a little bit of it, and obviously Ovechkin is just so good that he transcends the fact that he's Russian. And then Crosby is just one of the best players that we've ever seen play the game. So we need that level of play out of Hughes and Kakko to get it to that point.
Nick, I don't know if you've have whipped out your calculator yet, but how are the Devils doing with their cap situation now, acquiring PK Subban? How much is he making? How much more room do they have to make these maybe even more deals on the horizon? Because obviously the ownership group has given Ray Shero the green light to spend more money.
Yeah, so after losing the Santini deal and then adding the Subban deal, the Devils now have, we don't have the actual cap, so it's going to be anywhere between $25 and $27 million to spend. That's after Subban. They have $25 to $27 million to spend. Next year, when they have to pay Hall, when they have to pay Hischier, when they have to pay Bratt, when they have to pay Blackwood, they're going to have $37 million to spend. depending on the cap goes up. If the cap goes up a little bit more next year, maybe it does hit that $83 million. They're gonna, or I'm sorry, if it does hit that $83 million, it'll probably be about 38 to spend next year. So when they have to pay Hall and Hischer and all that, you got to remember the Andy Green contract goes off next year, and then the year after that, the Zajac contract comes off after that. So that's another $5 million next year, $10 million total in 2 years. There's a lot of money to spend. Money is not going to be the issue for this team for a long time.
No, and that's a positive. And there's just, the future is so bright right now for the Devils. It's such an exciting time for this team, such an exciting time for us as fans. It's going to be a great bunch of years coming up, and that's all that we can hope for, especially after what we've gone through the last few. The next bunch of years, 5 to 10 years, are just going to be awesome.
It's going to be great, guys. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I have to step away again. I got a couple articles to edit and work to do, but I really appreciate you guys having me on.
No, Thank you for coming on short notice.
Thanks, Nick.
See you guys.
So that's Nick Volano of Pucks and Pitchforks blog, powered by Fansided. Wow. The last hour and a half has flown by, Shorts Guy. We are, getting almost to our second. I don't know how much longer we're going, but I got to thank the listeners and viewers tuning in, especially on the Facebook Live and Periscope. Periscope was humming before. Periscope was just absolutely humming before. I've
never even checked out Periscope. I probably should.
Yeah, you should. But yeah, so to recap, breaking news. Well, it's not so breaking at this point. I think the whole world knows. PK Subban is now a New Jersey Devil. Ray Shero is making deals left and right for the New Jersey Devils. I haven't even kept up with we're in the middle of a draft right now.
I know.
I can't even keep up.
I was expecting this afternoon to get a little bit of work done, which is what I was doing prior to jumping onto the podcast, and then turn on the draft and watching the Devils pick some players. I was not expecting any of this. And you know what, Sam, we cannot fail to mention that in the last, I don't know, 29 hours, we've broadcasted close to 6 hours of podcast time. We've got like close to 6 hours of broadcast time in the last 29 hours or so.
I know. And you know what? And we're doing it live. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. Just like Bill O'Reilly. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. I'll write it. You just do it.
It's been a big day all around. And I think here's what I have to point this out. On Wednesday or Thursday, I can't remember which day, and I only saw it real quick, and I just said, ugh, and I just rolled my eyes at it. I saw someone post on Facebook, "Fire Shero." Fire Shero. That's all it said. That was the statement, and because that was after the Rangers pulled in Trouba, and the Flyers made their move, and the Devils had not done anything. Do you really want to fire Ray now? I don't think so. He just brought Subban into your organization.
Yeah. Well, this is what I have to say about that.
Statement. Oh my!
But also, but also, I will have to say, this is why we're going to have to start getting interns and creating career opportunities here on the Let's Go Devils podcast. We need interns to screenshot these comments like Fire Shero, because they'll have the person's name next to it. And we should do a bit. We should do a bit and just call everybody out by name. What, you want Shero fired because of who would you rather have, Trouba or Subban?
See,
who would
patience? I'm happy with Subban right now, but I was just gonna say patience is a virtue. We had to have patience, because I was happy with the Devils not pulling the trigger on a move we didn't need just because the Rangers and the Flyers did it. I'm happy the Devils pulled the trigger on this trade, because it's what we needed. It was a fantastic trade. I am really happy with it. I honestly have not had much time to process the trade myself. I just, as soon as I saw the trade, got immediately to work so I can get here onto the podcast. So it's still sinking in for me that we have PK Subban. We have one of the top personalities in the league, let alone one of the top defensemen in the league.
Yes.
It's fantastic. It is just fantastic.
This is, his nickname is Prime Time up in Montreal. I was so impressed with PK Subban, and I normally don't do this as a Devils fan. I bought a Montreal Canadiens jersey with 76 Subban, on the back, just because I loved him that much to get his jersey, which is another team, and I have no issues with the Montreal Canadiens and their fans. They're great fans. Anybody that's seen any hockey fan that's ever seen a game at the Bell Center knows that atmosphere is like a playoff atmosphere for even a preseason game at times. So let's put it this way. Ray Shero just waited to the right moment. And you know what? Again, I said this earlier on the podcast, and I mean it in a good way. Ray Shero is the biggest thief in New Jersey right now.
Yeah.
Because he has not overpaid or overextended the New Jersey Devils, assets that they currently have to acquire these players. And how is he doing it? Well, number one, he has cap space. You need to have cap space to be doing these kind of things. Number two, that leverage gives Ray Shero options, and he can hold out as long as he can till the team really needs to pull a deal to get it done. And there's Ray Shero getting value. And I don't think Ray actually, his goal to make a trade is to rip off the other team. He's only going to make a deal if it makes sense and it's worth it to the New Jersey Devils. So kudos to Ray Shero. And, this whole time when Ray Shero came in and Lou Lamoriello was out, obviously being a New Jersey Devils fan and having Lou Lamoriello, in the driver's seat for almost three decades. Ray Shero comes into a situation that we've only really known Lou Lamoriello's way, but he took his time with it. I remember one of the first podcasts, and I'll say this all the time, and I got to pull out the audio. This is before Shorts Guy and Beer Baron joined me on the podcast. I did a phone interview with Bill Clement, and I think the Devils had lost, 9-0 that night. And we were all, let's just say we were all pissed off. And I had Bill Clement on scheduling, and, Bill, having played for Ray's father, Fred Shero, the great Hall of Famer, Fred Shero, that coached the Flyers to 2 Stanley Cups. And he watched Ray, grow up as a little kid when he played on the Flyers. He said, Ray Shero absolutely knows what he's doing. And he even remarked that Devils fans in 5 years will see a lot of what Ray Shero is all about. That's Bill Clement for you. I mean, he told me straight. I was like, are you kidding me, Bill? The Devils just lost like 9-0. They're on a 17-game, winless streak. And you're telling me I got to trust Ray? Well, Ray knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
You know what I find interesting? The last, not even 24 hours now for the Devils have been fantastic. And we're the talk of the league now. It's probably safe to say. The last time the Devils were the talk of the league was when we stole Taylor Hall from Edmonton for Adam Larson. And then almost immediately after that trade broke, the Subban to Nashville trade broke and the Devils were lost. All of a sudden that became the big news. So here we are now getting Subban back, or I shouldn't say back, but Subban is back in the news because now he's coming to the New Jersey Devils.
I'll even add something.
And now we have to sign Taylor Hall, and man, we're going to be a force to reckon with for years to come.
These two trades, the only way Ray Shero wants to be the thief of the century if he goes after Connor McDavid. That's the only thing that could top these two trades. Hall and PK Subban. If he goes after Connor McDavid, it actually gets it done without parting with he sure and Jack Hughes. That's the only way. And you gotta wonder. Yeah, and you also gotta wonder, what do you think Kyle Palmieri is thinking right now when he's got two centermen, Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, either or to work with? Or could you imagine the Hischier? Say if they play Russian hockey. They're not going to play Russian hockey. Think of this power play. 4 forwards, 1 defenseman. You got Subban on the point, right?
Yeah.
Hischier, Hall, Hughes, and Palmieri.
That's fantastic. It should be a top power play line in the league. It should be. Everything is just looking. We are such on the upward swing right now. It's incredible.
Now that we're like really dreaming, can you imagine? I just take 1 second here. I'm going to say it right now. I'm probably going to get crap for it. Can you imagine the way Ray Shero is if he could actually pull off a McDavid trade? I'm not speculating because it's almost too impossible. But right now with Ray Shero, you just don't know. You really have no idea what this guy has up his sleeve.
Capable of.
Yeah.
And he's willing. Couple things about Ray. He's willing to do what he needs to do to make the team better. And he's also willing to not do something to hurt the team. As in not do a panic buy for someone. He's not going to do a panic trade for anyone. He's only going to do what is best for the team. And as much as we hated to see Johansson go and Boyle go, look what those picks are doing for us now. These picks that we knew we had a bank of picks are being turned into PK Subban. We turned picks into PK Subban. It's incredible. I usually hate at this time of year. I usually hate rushing through the summer. I hate rushing anytime. I'm really excited for October. I usually don't get that way until September. I'm really excited for October right now. Between last night and today, I'm excited to see Devils hockey again right now, and I'm not normally like that.
Jerry Hall writes, I think he's a Nashville Predators fan. I have to do some. He's like, he just said, the power play and PK, he's like laughing. Like, did you all watch PK and Nashville at all on the power play? I'm sorry, Jerry. Don't take this personally. That was Nashville. This is New Jersey. We do things a little bit differently here.
Yeah, he's going to come and make, and his value too as a mentor for the younger defenseman is going to be great as well. Nick brought it up, and we were talking about mentoring too with Bruce. Since I've been on, and that's going to help our young core defensemen as well. We've got a ton of young defensemen that, given a little bit of guidance, man, they're hopefully going to go far. And this is just going to be a defensive core that'll last us for a while.
Well, Benny writes, Boyle re-signed with the Devs for cheap. Jerry writes, y'all are New Jersey. Yep. Good one, Jerry. Yep. That's right. We're the Devils. The Devils.
And you know what? I wouldn't mind re-signing Hall for a reasonable amount of money for another character guy in the locker room. I think that would be great as well too. And we are on the upswing. We may help him get another cup.
Oh, absolutely. Cheryl Miller is in the Facebook live group. Cheryl, did you get to see Shorts Guy? Did you see Cheryl at the festivities yesterday outside of Prudential Center?
I don't think so, unless for some reason, just in the craziness of what happened after the draft, I've forgotten, but I don't think I ran into Cheryl. I don't know.
Well, you ran into a lot of people.
I ran into so many people. So if I had forgotten it's my apologies. And then I don't know if anyone last night was listening after the Devils draft pick. It seemed to be like a who's who of friends of the Devil. Let's Go Devils podcast joining us live outside the Prudential Center just for conversations about Hughes. And we even made new friends at a podcast and, welcoming Erica on and getting Erica Wachter's insight into everything too. So it's the blitz of people after the draft last night was fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. Well, here, let's pull up a picture of last night. You and Erica side by side doing a 10-minute bit on last night's State of the Fan address. That was a thing of beauty. And also our other good friends, Arlette, Pete, and Chop Liver, Kevin Clark. Also,
no, Kevin called himself and Pete Chopped and Liver.
Oh, okay. Is that what that was? And
yes.
Also the great Steve Cangelosi, Devils TV play-by-play announcer. Also we want to give Jerry a plug. One of our big podcast fans. He spotted you. He saw you, and that was good. And here's another picture of you and Erica. Just hold on a sec. My computer just froze.
That's not good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not good. But yeah, so that's sorry, I'm trying to get back to us. Here we go. So yeah, we're going to be doing some live events. I don't know if I should spill the beans a little bit, but we are waiting for the NHL schedule because we are going to be taking the podcast on the road, doing viewing parties, and we got some good things in the work. Cheryl Miller said that you were with her hooligan nephew.
Yeah, with Bobby. Yeah, Cheryl. Yes. I did see you. My apologies on that. Yep, I was there with that was there with Bobby last night. Bobby and Kelly were both there with me, and we got to thank Kelly for all the help she did in getting for getting Erica on the show. So
absolutely.
Kelly was the key to that. So that was fantastic.
She was money, man.
Oh, totally, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so we're almost to the top of the hour. So let's recap. Breaking news, not so breaking right now, but PK Subban goes to the Nashville Predators. Devils are loading up. Look at the defense right now. Let's start with the goalies. You got the Schneider Blackwood combo,
duo.
Right?
Yep.
Duo. We'll talk about goaltending another time, but look at this defense right now. PK Subban, Sammy Vatanen, solid. Will Butcher.
Yep.
You got Ty Smith, moving through the ranks. Maybe at the big club sooner than we think. You just don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about him. This defensive core, potentially next 2 or 3 years, could be one of the top defensive cores in the league. I mean,
yeah.
You think about Erik Karlsson, that contract he signed makes a fat cat look like a toothpick. I just made that up. I'm just saying things out loud how I feel, right? PK Subban, I don't think we're overpaying for this guy. I don't think we're overpaying for it. He has a lot of intangibles. He's going to be great for the community. He's a celebrity in his own right. The woman.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Nashville paying part of his salary still as well? Or is that?
I think the Devils are picking it. You know what? I've been putting the show together. I didn't get the details. Let's ask Facebook Live and Periscope. How much are the Devils picking up of PK Subban's contract? I mean, that's going to be very important. Also, cap stuff. But once the dust settles, we will analyze that probably on our next podcast or the podcast after, but right now, Ray Shero still has flexibility. He's still, Robert Connolly writes, Nashville did not retain any salary.
No,
well, you know what? To if you're going to fleece another team, you got to at least pick up the salary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to fleece them with talent, it's not a knock on Santini and Davies and the, whoever the second rounders are. But if you're going to fleece them, at least pick up the tab. That's what I say, especially when ownership group has more money than than all of us combined times 1,000. Pick up the tab. You got a great player. Pay the guy.
Sam. Yep. Sam, we have to go back to a phrase that you kept saying over and over and over again. Trust the process. I believe we can say that trusting the process.
In full disclosure, I didn't make up that term. I just ripped it off from the 76ers, which is
I know.
pretty much.
And I know you ripped it off from there. However, you kept saying it over and over again, trust the process. And we have trusted the process, and look where we sit right now. Now, granted, the Devils have not yet won a game this season so far because it hasn't started. And we're all hoping and just hope beyond hope that this is going to come together. But if you look at the pieces we have on paper, we've trusted the process, and it's got us to this point. And I'm willing to say that we are in a very good situation.
Well, Robert Connolly writes, I get it, but we picked up the tab to get to the cap floor. Well, yeah, that's kind of true too. But you know what? That's a good thing. If you have to pick up PK Subban to get to the cap floor,
yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, that, and when his contract's up, it's time to pay Hughes. LOL. Well, yeah, we'll enjoy primetime for a few years. You know what? I bet your primetime is going to love winning Stanley Cups with the New Jersey Devils. That, by the end of his contract, he's probably going to be like, hey, Lindsay, do you want to go to New York? And Lindsay's going to be like, no, PK, New York is overrated. It's a dump. Let's just stay in New Jersey. That's what she's going to say.
But they can still live in New York without the spotlight.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true too. We're just making things up. We're just making things up here on the Let's Go Devils podcast, powered by Nova Product Design on the Primetime Radio Network. So, Curtis Burr, I can't tell if people are sarcastic or at all. Like, just like you, Shorts guy, maybe we should have this little conversation about last night, about that little text that we got Kako. I know you're being sarcastic, but sometimes when you read texts or messages, you can't read. There's no sarcasm meter there. I wish there was a sarcasm meter.
I know, and you know what? I can't remember if I said this last night, but when we were out there covering the draft day party and all that stuff last night. And every time they showed Kako on the screen, before any draft picks were made, the crowd was booing him. The Devils fans did not want Kako. And I'm going to have to admit this. Part of me wanted to see the Devils draft Kako just to watch what the crowd did. Because for all those in this area, watching some of those Giant fan reactions from when the Giants drafted that quarterback whose name is escaping me right now from Duke, watching some of those reactions were absolutely hysterical. So part of me just wanted to see what the crowd would do if the Devils called up Kako instead of Hughes. But that's just me being a jerk. As much as I didn't want Kako, I wanted Hughes all the way. But I would love to have seen.
I know. And that tweet that Boomer Esiason on WFAN, the great Boomer Esiason, that his daughter Sydney bought him a Kako jersey, before Kako was selected, that kind of thing. And it was like, he was so happy to get that as a gift. And I so wanted the Devils just for that reason, just to draft Kako, because you know what's going to happen. If the Devils did draft Kako,
yeah,
I bet you Ranger fans won't admit it. I bet you they would be shaking a little bit, like, what do the Devils may know that we don't? that kind of scenario. Like, just it's almost the same scenario with Heischer and Patrick. It was really kind of it was like one player's stock was high for so long that it just plateaued, and one player's stock in the last 4 to 6 months leading up to the draft skyrocketed. And it was like, who do you go with? And when it was all said and done, and you said this on the podcast before, when we were thinking between Hughes and Kako, Shorts guy, you said, well, Ray Shero got it right with Heischer over Patrick.
Totally.
I trust him. I trust him to make the right decision here. And we all believe, and time will tell, if he did make the right decision. Time will tell. Now,
time will tell. I think right now he did, but you're right. Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. And how many people were at the festivities yesterday outside the Prudential Center? I mean, I know Josh Harris in the interview said it was over 8,000. Was it that much? I mean, it was a big crowd watching the TV. Am I correct?
It was a large crowd. I don't know if it was near the 9,000 that I was told were given out. Because you got to imagine that there were people like yourself that applied for all that you could, and we had the extras just to get in and out in case we needed it to for the podcast. Yeah, I got to imagine people had tickets that didn't use. There were definitely a couple thousand there for that for the event, and the Devils ran it right. They did it really good. The way that everything was run, it was run smoothly, no issues. They had, like I was saying before, current players. Devils did it right last night. All around from from the party to the actual draft. They did it right.
And you know what? I want to talk to all the Devils fans that are listening in, that are Devils members, basically Devils season ticket holders. I'm sure in the last year we gave our season ticket reps a lot of crap. Some of it, was probably legit, but some of it was probably out of anger because the team was doing bad. But this is a little public service announcement. Call your season ticket rep in the next couple of weeks and just say, thank you for hanging in there. It's all good now, but we kind of like the product that Ray's putting in. And and also, by the way, if it's true that it was estimated around 9,000 people that showed up, make sure that it's 8,997, because those 3 extra tickets you didn't use, they don't really count.
Nope. I didn't need to use them, but we had them just in case.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're 8 minutes to the top of the hour. 4 p.m. Eastern is coming up. We still have a lot of people tuning in on the Facebook Live. We're going into our second, into the second, third hour. But we're going to probably cut it short at some point. But PK Subban to New Jersey Devils, breaking news. I mean, what more can we say? I'm kind of interested to see what Ray Shero is going to do to round out, putting this team together for the upcoming season. But if I was Taylor Hall right now, how many players of his stature that have a Hart Trophy is going to have a mega contract year? How many players get this opportunity to play with this kind of talent, potentially for the remainder of your career? This is young talent. Jack Hughes, Heischer, PK. I wouldn't say he's young now, but you know what? He's going to give you a good 3 or 4 years. Yeah. He's going to give you immediately. And then after his contract is done, who knows? Maybe they can re-sign him, but chances are they got to pay Jack Hughes. Well, Jack Hughes could be the next Connor McDavid of the East. Think about it. I mean, this is nuts. I mean, this is EA Sports, like NHL fantasy we're living right now. Like, I almost want to I almost want to go out and get the game right now and then kind of plug it in, make all these trades, and and get that roster and have the computer play the season and see what kind of results
See what
we
you
get.
can do. That would be really
Yeah.
interesting. That would be
Yeah.
really interesting. And just trying to think, and I could be completely wrong, which is possible, but I'm just trying to think that which teams could Taylor Hall potentially go to that are, one, have the cap space to pay him what he's going to want, and two, are in that position to not only have that cap space to pay him what he wants, but are in the position to potentially win the cup within the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that the Devils are, cup contenders today. I think the Devils have gone a long way to helping their argument towards getting to the playoffs for sure.
Yep.
But is there anywhere where he can sign where that has cap space that could potentially win it, next year or the year after? I don't know if there is a team like that.
Well, right now for the New Jersey Devils, there's only one thing to do. Just win, baby. Just win.
Yeah.
Just win, win, win. And don't lose to the Rangers. That's what we gotta get across to Jack Hughes and PK Subban. There's two things when you come to New Jersey. You don't lose to the Rangers. The second thing, do you know what it is, Shorts Guy?
It's called Taylor Ham.
It's called Taylor Ham. It's never been pork roll. Pork roll are for people that love to kiss their sisters down South Jersey, maybe the parts of Central Jersey. It's always been called Taylor Ham. And Jack Hughes, if you start bulking up on Taylor Ham, that body will go from 5'11", 165 to 6'5", 245, like an Eric Lindros centerman.
Hopefully without the porcelain skull that Lindros had.
All right. Enough. Those are the old days. He never won a cup under our watch, and that's okay with me. All is good in Devil's Land. So Cheryl Miller, OMG. Josh Sherrill, is it Sherrill? No, Sir Kerr. I don't know. Josh Hughes has to produce. PK is proven. That's absolutely correct. And guys, let's also manage the expectations of this new lineup. I know we're excited. We're in fantasy world. We're in the EA Sports, fantasy world right now of just top tier talent. A lot of speed, a lot of excitement. In some ways, a lot of grit. Just remember, Jack Hughes. Did he just turn 18? He just turned 18.
Yeah, just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, he turned 18.
PK Subban is Jesse writes, sorry, kiss your sister. Have you ever been to South Jersey, dude? Yes, I have. They're called Flyer fans. So yeah. I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, look, PK Subban, it may take a little bit of adjustment, but he's a professional. He'll adjust. It may not happen on October 4th at the Prudential Center against who are they playing? The Winnipeg Jets. So
I can't. I saw that. I saw the game yesterday, and I cannot remember who it is that we're playing. I'm gonna have to look it up. It's just so much is going through my head right now that I can't even remember. I know we get Buffalo on the 5th. I know that for some reason I remember Buffalo on the 5th. All I know is we're opening at home on the 4th of October. You tried last night to get Kevin Clark to give us a preview of him calling Hughes' first goal, which I hope is at home for our sake and for Kevin's sake, for as big of a Devils fan as Kevin is. I really hope that that goal is at home. But if it's not, I think we'll all just be happy to see that he scored in any place. But
hey,
I know
Pete,
we got Buffalo on the 5th.
Pete Serling writes, just joined you boys now, so I'm sure I missed a lot. Who do you thinking we get in free agency? Who do we have a chance with?
I think
I'm still stuck on PK and Jack Hughes right now.
Yeah, you know what?
I haven't thought about it yet. But I
bringing in PK Subban changes up the entire game as far as free agency. We were talking about it earlier, how PK Subban is now here. Jack Hughes was drafted. We're going to hopefully re-sign Taylor Hall. Now the Devils are becoming a team, a destination team where players are going to want to play. So to be honest, I want to say that we're now opening ourselves up to becoming a landing spot for, I don't want to say anybody, but we're getting close to the point where we may be jumping up the top of the list for free agents. As far as anything specific,
well, here's a great perk for any of you free agents out there, unrestricted free agents that are looking for a big payday. A, the Devils have cap space to possibly pay that if they want to. B, you look at this lineup, who wouldn't want to be part of that lineup? And the third thing, I know New Jersey gets congested, and they could get congested to the point where you're stuck in traffic. There's a helicopter pad on top of the Prudential Center. That's if you want to live in New York, if you're a young kid that is a great hockey player, you want to live in New York but play in New Jersey, okay, that's fine. Take a helicopter. You'll get to the arena just in time. It's just a little perks. Just kidding around. It's just jokes, people. But yeah. Some of these comments. This is why we're the most commented podcast of in the history of New Jersey Devils podcast. Our fans are great. I mean, you look at Periscope. Like, I haven't even looked on YouTube Live. Somebody asked me, "You guys should have a YouTube channel." I was like, "We do." And
I was just trying to go on to the YouTube channel as we were starting to talk.
Yeah, YouTube.com. The channel is Let's Go Devils. It's just plain and simple. Let's Go Devils. So type in Let's Go Devils. Chances are you'll find us. Here, we're live right now. Here, I'll turn off the volume just to show. Oh, wow, there's been a lot of chatter. Whoa. Shane Van Sickle. Yeah, we got to start paying attention. But Shane Van Sickle, you have to remember, Green has one more year. That will free up more money. Thank you, Shane, for that. Hines is not on the block. Felony strutter. This guy's a joke. We need 2 goalies in this draft. Corey has always been, hope for. Yeah, that felony guy, felony strutter. He seems like he's just trolling us, but whatever. We need goaltending all throughout our franchise. Thank God we have PK. Well, this is what I have to say about goaltending. You don't need to have a Vezina winner to win the Stanley Cup. You just need to have somebody that's steady and can get hot at the right times. Look at what happened in this year's Stanley Cup Finals. Bennington versus Rask. If you'd asked me back in January, who would you take in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals? It wasn't the Vezina winner. That's for sure.
Back in January, you would have said Bennington who?
Yeah. It's like, huh? What, the guy Marty taught? Pretty much.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known who he was. No, but goaltending is key to winning. I mean, we also have seen in the last bunch of years, goaltenders getting hot, winning a cup, and then signing for big money and then disappearing. Chicago went through how many goalies? Murray for Pittsburgh, took the reins and then ran with it with Pittsburgh, and then he's kind of dropped off. And that you've seen a reemergence of Marc-Andre Fleury as well. So he kind of went, down and then came back up. Look at San Jose. I want to say one of the weak links. Martin Jones was hot and cold. He was either fantastic or he wasn't. You absolutely do need a good goaltender. Binnington was fantastic. And they were talking about, I was listening to some analysis last night on the way home, talking about how, I know it was going down in the draft party. It was John Van Beesbrook was on the radio yesterday talking about how they're kind of going a little bit back in time as far as goaltending is concerned, and not so much the robotic goaltending that we've seen a lot of, where it's just, you're playing the angles and percentages and making the saves. Is they're starting to look at goaltenders like Binnington, who are not only really good goaltenders, but are willing to do whatever they can to make the save and can make those desperation saves when you need them, just like he did, in Game 7 against almost at Pittsburgh, against Boston. So it's not so much just those, big blocky robotic goaltenders. Is they're looking at the skill set of the goaltenders as well, and you also want you want to find a goalie that enjoys making saves instead of just trying to get through the game too. You want to have that goalie that'll do that and make that save. And I think is
just to let
Corey
you
our
know,
answer? I don't know if Corey's our answer, but I think he can get us to where we need to go to get to the answer, if that makes any sense.
just to let you know, we got fans from other teams chiming in. This is from Unguard to the Max in the YouTube live chat. I'm a Blue Jackets fan, and even though you're a division rival, I would love to see you guys be a competitive team again. I think it would be great to have new competitive teams in the division like you. Thank you, Ungar. But just be careful what you wish for, because when the BJs come into town, we'll be ready. We'll be ready.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Dave really kind of the Blue Jackets have emerged as a really good team recently as well, which is really great to see. Easily the Metro division is the hardest division in the league.
Yes.
And
Although I hate that division name, the Metropolitan.
Yeah, so do I. I do
just
too.
call it the Patrick division. let's go back to the old days. The Norris, the Campbell, all that kind of stuff.
To me, it makes no sense geographically.
Yeah.
It makes no sense geographically.
When I think of Metropolitan, I think of Steve Summers on WFAN when he talks about the New York Mets. He's always like, and the Metropolitans. The Metropolitans had a 10-0 lead in the 7th inning. But as you know, Mets fans, it's anybody's game. Seriously. As the bullpen blows it again. Seriously.
A broken record with the Mets, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah. So PK put out a video on Instagram. He's all jacked up coming to New Jersey. You know what we got to do? We got to get PK on. We got to get PK or Lindsey Vaughn or both onto the podcast. We'll figure it out. That's going to be my mission next week. Get PK and Lindsey on our podcast. And but wow, I still people chiming in, people watching, listening to the podcast. Let's Go to Those podcast, powered by Nova Product Design on the Primetime Radio Network. Breaking news: Devils acquire PK Subban. I am your host Sam Wu here with Shorts Guy. This is hard to do. We're probably going to end the podcast soon. I mean, I'm still in my pajamas. I haven't showered yet. My wife and I were supposed to do something today together. This is how bad, and we have to thank our significant others. We got to take a little time, because I just want the viewers and listeners to know how special it is to have, your girlfriend Kelly and my wife Melanie supporting us doing this gig. Number one, against her wishes, I ordered a large pie with sausage, peppers, and onions. And I said, okay, I'll go out and get it. And as soon as I made that call, Shorts Guy, guess what happened? You texted.
My text went to you.
Is this true? PK Subban to the Devils? And after we triple verified it, we got to do a podcast. Drop everything. And I made my poor wife go get the pizza because they don't deliver. And as I was eating, I was eating the pizza on air, thank you, Melanie, for letting us do this. Also, I like you thank Kelly, because Kelly did a wonderful job pulling guests to Shorts Guy at the NHL festivities presented by Bud Light. You got to have that in there. down at Prudential Center. Hey, we love to plug the Devils because we're a fans team. We'll plug their sponsors. But hey, if you sponsors want to sponsor this podcast, and not that we're trying to get into your pockets, but something about this podcast is we're raising money for $35 million for this jet, this private jet, so we can go on the road with our Let's Go Devils podcast fans to watch our Devils on the road, because we'll probably be doing some live events on the roads, probably in Philadelphia, New York, or wherever. And we hope to see, because the Devils fans do travel well around the NHL, we would love to see you at one of our podcast pregame events. But yeah, hey, Alan Mata, nice Steve Summers impression. Well, thank you, Alan. This is Steve Summers, the schmooze, talking about the Metropolitans. I can also do Joe Beningo, the big Ranger fan on WFAN. Hey, it's Joe Beningo, 6 Easy Sports. The Rangers are a disaster. They haven't won a cup since 94. But the Devils, they have no fans. I can't think, Evan, what 2,000 fans is. I don't know how they're there. But let's talk about the misery of the New York Jets firing their GM last minute like that. I mean, it's a disaster, And also, I got to convince them, but Bill Clement and I can do the best Mike Francesa and Mad Dog Russo impression. We did it one time. One time we were having a conversation, and Bill started doing Mad Dog Russo. He's like, "Hey, Mikey, da, da, da." I was like, "Hey, dog."
That sounds like
I never said
perfect.
that. I never said that.
Something perfect for just a short midweek podcast. You guys do your impression there. It's perfect content for that.
Yeah, and getting a radio wars just like Francesa and the other guy, Michael K. About the ratings. Well, this is the beauty of the Let's Go Devils podcast. And before we end the podcast, I just want to tell the listeners and viewers the great thing about the Let's Go Devils podcast is, can I get a little drum roll, Shorts guy? Just a little drum roll. Do you know what's the great thing about the Let's Go Devils podcast is? We have no bosses. We have no bosses.
Technically, you're the boss, Sam. Technically, that's what you are.
And that's why the sky always falls down when I'm the boss. We do all the crazy things, right? Have promotions of our sell T-shirts so we can sell 1.7 million T-shirts so we can buy this private jet so we can go watch our Devils on the road. I mean, hey,
it'd be a lot of fun.
And that came from one of these evangelists that was trying to raise money for his church.
Yeah,
because they needed a private jet. I was like, well, heck, if he could do that, we could do that, right? So, but hey, happy day. It's a happy Devils Saturday. We'll be back on tomorrow. Let's Go Devils podcast, the big podcast, the main show, the big show at our normal time, Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And what is that? Is that 6 p.m. Pacific?
6,
well,
yes,
Alamata will find out. He can figure things out. He's always late to our podcast. I wonder why. It's because he's on the West Coast. But you can always find us on the replay at any of our platforms. We're on iTunes. We are on iHeart app, iHeart.com. We're on Spotify. We are streaming live at letsgodevils.com. Actually, we're not right now because we had to put the show last minute and wasn't able to figure out why the stream wasn't working. But we will fix that by tomorrow. Also, we want to thank the viewers, listeners for tuning in on the breaking news, our happy time that PK Subban is finally a New Jersey Devil. After all those rumors of one line he said, it's like, I want to ask him, did you know about this, PK? Did you know this whole time you're coming to, over to, where real hockey, real championship hockey is? I don't know.
I wouldn't doubt it if he did. I would not doubt it if he did.
All right, so let's cue up our normal music. We didn't do the anthem, but we did the Let's Go Devils organ. We also did the Rangers Suck Oregon, because I had to get our guest on the line, and you weren't available at that moment.
Yeah, I got here as soon as I could.
Yeah, but hey, that's all that matters. So let me see if this music will cue up.
Cue up our music.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, I got the. Here we go. No, it's not it. See, there's
What
always
happens when
technical
Sam?
difficulties. Yeah. Oh, Alan Mata writes 6 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, Alan. I forget that we're on a delay, so some of our comments don't come as quick.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but it's good to verify, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, there it is. All right. Well, yeah. So this is the Let's Go Devils podcast. Not even an episode, just breaking news. Yeah. Also, I was supposed to put up all of our podcasts up on iTunes and all that, but we got a little sidetracked with this breaking news. But hey, it's a happy problem. It's a happy Devil's Saturday, and enjoy the day. Follow us on social media. Let's Go Devils podcast on Facebook, Twitter at Let's Go Devil. I'm losing it. At Let's Go Devils Pod, and on YouTube Live, Let's Go Devils channel. All right. Well, that ends the podcast. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Beer Baron. Thank you, Nick. Till next time, let's go Devils.